Welcome to today's episode to Fly to Freedom. I am beyond excited that Katherine Cimorelli is joining us today from the Cimorelli Band. Um, Katherine, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a bit more in a moment, but I've got some quick fire questions for you. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, what is your favorite sound in the world?
Oh, it's funny because I actually record favorite sounds just on my phone for no reason. And I think my favorite that I've recorded is the sound of a really peaceful, steady, heavy rainstorm, maybe a little bit of thunder, but I just love it's such a peaceful sound. Um, any type of water really, but rain is the first thing that comes to mind. I just love it. It's so soothing.
Yes, that's really nice. When I was there, a child, we used to have a conservatory, a glass conservatory. And when it was really heavy raining, I used to sit in the conservatory and read because I just love the sound of the rain on the roof.
Oh, it's so nice. I love it.
Talking about reading, has a book ever changed your life?
Oh my gosh, so many. I love reading and I'm constantly reading, usually like a couple books. My favorite author is Shauna Niequist, and she wrote, I've read all of her books several times, 3 to 5 times each. And I think the first book that I read was her first book, Cold Tangerines. And her whole series, I mean, all of them changed my life. Just the way she looks at life. I feel like I have so many weird similarities and parallels with her. And I found her book when I was 17, and I feel like it just sort of set me on this trajectory of thinking about life in a different way, and also really made me want to be a writer. And I love that she was talking about being a mom, but also being a writer because I wanted to be both. So it just sort of gave me a blueprint of like something I wanted to do in the future.
Amazing. I have not heard of her, so I will check out Cold Tangerines.
Yeah,
So,
you should. You should.
what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Ooh, I don't know if someone gave this to me, but I heard this probably on, I think it was actually from the Fly Lady. She's like a cleaning guru, and I've always had a hard time keeping things organized, but I really love her routine. And and I don't even think she's the first person that said this, but this is just one of the places that I've heard it, and it's really stuck with me, especially this year. That is, done is better than perfect. And I think
Yeah.
it's just sort of like a mental trick. Like when you are a perfectionist and you tend to put things off and you just never do them because you're always like, oh, well, it needs to be perfect. I can't do it yet. You just kind of have to tell yourself done is better than perfect, and just sort of not letting fear guide you, but like just doing it. And you'll be happy that you did it. And it's better to do it imperfectly than to put it off and never do it. So that's been really guiding me, like, especially this year.
I love that. That's brilliant. Done is better than perfect. Fantastic. Um, if you were a dog, what breed of dog would you be?
Oh man, that's hard. So I'm not a big dog person. We had dogs growing up. We had Rhodesian Ridgebacks. That's the breed that my family always went for, and I love that breed. But I'm definitely would not be that breed. What's the breed that's like very friendly? Golden Retriever?
Oh,
I
they're
think
so friendly. Yes.
that would probably be me. I'm very outgoing and I love to make friends, love to be with people and have people over and just be in a social environment. Like that makes me happier than anything. So
Oh,
probably a golden
amazing.
retriever.
Oh, I grew up with one. They're such beautiful dogs.
Oh, that's awesome.
And let's go for one last question. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about you, about the world, about anything, you could make one thing magic, what would you change?
Hmm. Well, kind of relating to this episode, I I wish I could, which things like this podcast are great. I wish I could like spread the message of kind of anti-diet culture more, and that more people knew that. I think that that message could benefit so many people. And yeah, if I could change one thing, I think I would just spread that everywhere so that it was a lot more known, because it feels very sort of niche and like unknown, unfortunately.
Yes, I'm 100% with you there. 1,000,000% actually. So,
Oh.
first of all, can you share a little bit about yourself with the listeners, please?
Yeah, so my name is Katherine. I am 31 years old. I was born and raised in California. I grew up in Sacramento, and then I moved down to the LA area when I was 18. Lived there for 5 years, and during that time, my sisters and I we started a band in our hometown, and then we ended up getting a record deal, moving down to Los Angeles, pursuing music in the pop industry, and we're there for about 5 years. And then we ended up leaving our record label and moving to Nashville, Tennessee, where I live now, and pursuing music independently, kind of running our own company as sisters. And it's been amazing. We've released several albums of music, a lot of albums, and we've toured a lot, different countries. Over the years, we've released a book called, we first had a book and then we had a second version of it, but it's called Believe in You. And it's all about advice for young girls, because that's kind of our primary fan base, is like women and like girls in their teens and 20s and older. And yeah, I got married in 2020, and I have two sons who are identical twins, and they are 2 years old, and I'm pregnant with my third baby, who is due in March of 2024. So that's a little about me.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. That's such an exciting journey with your career as well.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know about the book.
Yeah,
I'll be sure to check that out.
thank you.
So, Catherine, you struggled with an eating disorder for about 10 years, didn't you? Can you
Yes.
share with us the journey with your eating disorder, and what were the early signs? When did you know that you were in trouble with it? And how did this kind of intertwine with your life as an artist and a public figure?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, I was not diagnosed until 2022. So it's only been about a year and a half that I officially was diagnosed, but I kind of say I was in like pseudo recovery for 2 years before that on my own, just from things that I found online and resources. But yeah, I can, once I kind of mapped my eating disorder with my specialist that I've been working with, I can see that it really, really started around the age of 18 when I moved to Los Angeles with my sisters to start a music career. And I think growing up, my childhood, I feel like I had a fairly good relationship with food and exercise. I didn't really have any restrictions on myself. I still love being active and just moving my body, and did a lot of sports growing up. Just enjoyed movement, and I don't know, I'm just kind of an energetic person, I think. And so I like to move a lot, but, so I didn't have anything that really sticks out to me as being too disordered until I moved to Los Angeles. And that was sort of where I think everything started to shift for me. And it was really, I think it kind of started because being in the music industry, first, well, there's probably multiple layers there, but one side of it was the immense pressure that you have as a woman to look a certain way and to be very thin and to just sort of have this sort of body. I think being in the pop industry as a woman, you feel like your body and how you look is the product, and you want to be, whatever the expectations are of the industry. You feel that, especially as an 18-year-old, very young, very impressionable, very naive. And then also, specifically in the area that I lived in, it was this very clean eating sort of, vegan, vegetarian, organic, gluten-free, dairy-free. Everything was just very focused on clean eating. I didn't really even know about that. I ate everything growing up. I had no restrictions. And suddenly I was hearing this sort of philosophy that certain food groups were poisonous or, really harmful to your body, and you could cause diseases on yourself. And I struggled with eczema. I started getting a lot of eczema on my hands when I was 15. So I was always trying to find ways to kind of combat these eczema rashes on my hands. And that might have been one of the first things that kind of pushed me, unknowingly. And I think all the advice that I received was from very well-intentioned, loving people that truly believed like this is helpful. And I don't fault them at all for it. It's just everyone's kind of fed these different things in this diet culture that we live in. But I remember someone saying to me, oh, that dairy is actually a big cause of eczema for people. So maybe you should try cutting dairy out of your diet and seeing if it helps. And that sort of led me on these elimination diets, trying to, remove different food groups and see if it helped my eczema. And I actually ended up becoming dairy-free for about 7 years, which was really, really difficult, especially traveling a lot with my family. Like on tour, we'd get ice cream or pizza, and I'd always be getting the dairy-free one or taking all the cheese off. And it was just, I don't know, kind of sad. I did sometimes indulge in it, but I had so much anxiety about it that I was eating something really harmful and poisonous to my body. And I had friends that were going sugar-free a lot, so I would cut sugar out of my diet for long periods of time. I tried all different types of diets. I mean, the Whole30, gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, all different things for long periods of time. And the saddest thing is that I really believed that I was being healthy the whole time, up until probably 2020 when I started to shift. I really thought, oh, I am healthy. I have it figured out, and other people are not healthy. It's almost like becomes a bit of a superiority complex, where you feel superior. And I think it's because I struggled so much with insecurity that I just wanted something to feel like I was doing the right thing. And for me, I really identify with orthorexia. That's probably my primary eating disorder. I don't know. I've heard some people say that they don't think orthorexia can exist without anorexia. So there might have been some anorexia in there, but I never dropped down to like a really low. I mean, I was always very thin, but I don't think I ever dropped quite into a really dangerous weight. But again, I know there's also atypical anorexia. So it's kind of hard to say there, but I really identify with orthorexia, clean eating, cutting out food groups, demonizing foods to the point where I just developed an extreme fear of food. All foods that were not clean, I felt almost like a moral, and I'm very into my faith, I'm Catholic. I almost felt like sinful for having those things. Not that that was ever, implied by my church. It was just something that sort of in my own mind I took on. So it was about 10 years that I was in that eating disorder.
I totally resonate with that, particularly with the orthorexia. And I believe that all eating disorders are restrictive, and be it atypical anorexia, orthorexia, anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, they all have restriction of some form. And I completely hear you when you say that you thought you were doing the right thing. You thought you were being healthy. For many years in my eating disorder days, I thought I was being healthy. I thought that eating clean and fasting and all the restricting entire food groups and all the exercise, it was all for my health. Because diet culture, fitness culture and everything tell you that all these things are really healthy, and like fasting gives you much longer lifespan and stuff. But I personally think they're so dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we learn to tune into our bodies, they know what to do. Our bodies are incredible.
They're wise.
And there's just too much noise out in society that kind of blocks people's ears to their own natural intuition.
Yeah. I know. I feel like as a teenager, I was so intuitive. And then you just get so far from that you don't even know what your body is saying, because it's been so long since you listened to that voice, because you've been told so many times that your body is wrong and that it only will crave, processed foods or whatever you're afraid of. And if you let your body go, it's just going to go off the rails. Like that's kind of the idea that we're fed in society.
Yes, it is. And those people that never buy into that and just listen to their bodies don't go off the rails, do they? Their bodies are absolutely fine. They don't have any of these worries. I mean, we're all supposed to come in different shapes and sizes, right? Shapes, sizes, colors, everything. We're all supposed to be different.
Amen.
So in your path to recovery, what were some of the key turning points that helped you shift your perspective and start healing? And how did they contribute to your overall personal and professional growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that I was thinking about when we were talking about sort of the trajectory of the eating disorder is, in this sort of clean eating diet fitness culture, I think something that people vastly don't talk about or acknowledge is the mental health aspect of it. How you may be eating a picture perfect plate, by half the people, because half the people are gonna, that's just what always makes me laugh is like, half the people are saying like, oh, keto or like, carnivore or like animal stuff. And the other half are saying, oh, that's all bad. You should be doing plant-based. It's like, no one can really agree on what is healthy because there's so many different opinions. But I think something that people don't talk about as enough is, yes, you may be, creating a plate that you think is perfect and clean and healthy and, nourishing. But how is your mental health with food? Are you just drowning in fear? That's just something that I never thought about. I never thought I should think about how food and my relationship with, is it affecting me mentally? And that's important. But anyway, yeah. So in terms of healing, it really started for me in 2020. And I can't help but think that this was by the grace of God. And it really makes me really overcome by emotion thinking about it, because I truly believe that this was meant to happen and that God was saving me from a life of destruction, honestly, that I was really going down this bad path for so long. In 2020, I actually got really sick. I was diagnosed with mononucleosis. And I can't remember what they call it in the UK. They call it something different. It's like glandular fever or something like that.
Oh yeah, glandular fever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's different. I know it's different, but, I was really sick for about 2 months. Just fever, chills. My, throat was really swollen. I couldn't get out of bed. I was just exhausted for 2 months. And I just was and I just got married. So I was home alone and it was during the pandemic. So even if I wasn't sick, I don't know that I would have really been going many places because there wasn't really anything going on. So it was in July of 2020 that I was diagnosed. During that time, I was, spending a lot of time on the couch, laying down because I couldn't do anything else, watching movies, watching TV shows. And I came across this video about intuitive eating. And I was like, intuitive eating, what's that? Like, I'd never even heard of it. And I just started kind of going down this rabbit hole. And probably for the next month, I was all in on this idea of intuitive eating and allowing all food groups in your diet. It was revolutionary to me as someone that was so restrictive for a decade. Like this idea that I could get what I wanted at the store and not just avoid, so many different foods. Like it just, I don't know, it blew my mind. So I kind of just started experimenting with that on my own. And that also, I really think looking back, it's just the grace of God. Like I didn't know that 6 months after that, I would be pregnant with twins, which is a massive body change and, weight gain and all that. Like God was really preparing me for some big changes coming, I believe. So came across these videos. I just voraciously took them in, videos, books, podcasts, articles, could not stop taking it in. I sounded like a preacher. I was calling my friends and trying to educate them and share all my resources. And I just was like, this is the best thing ever. Why does everyone not know about this? Like, I felt like I had been set free from a prison and I just could not believe the freedom that I was encountering in that. And then fast forward, in January of the following year, I found out that I was pregnant with twins. And because of that pregnancy, and also before that, I had put on a little bit of weight just by, I think it was such healthy weight. Looking back at those pictures, I'm like, wow, I really I looked super healthy. Like I looked for the first time, like I wasn't like sunken in and just ghostly. Like I looked like I had life in me from gaining a little bit of weight just from intuitive eating. And then with my twins, God bless my twins, but I gained, a good amount more weight with them. And it was around the time that I was postpartum. So it was, late 2021 to early 2022. I started to get hit with a lot of what I didn't know at the time was sort of like, I don't know if it was relapse, but it was sort of like disordered eating was coming back up for me. And it was really, I think, because, I had had my twins and I was a much different weight than I was before. And that was very triggering for me. So I found this, I just had this feeling. I was like, I never wanted to say I had an eating disorder. I was like, I know I've had some issues with food and some disordered eating, but I just felt the term eating disorder has such a stigma attached to it. And I was like, oh, that's not me. I don't relate to that. Again, probably the pride. And then I found this dietitian and she specialized, in the intuitive eating approach, which I was like, great. And I really wanted to talk with someone about, how can I be as healthy as I can after I ended up developing preeclampsia with my twins, which is very common in having twins. But because I had an eating disorder and I had that mindset, I immediately blamed myself. What did I do wrong? And funny enough, through my pregnancy, I actually was very focused on nutrition. I was exercising a lot. I was swimming laps, taking walks. Like I really took good care of my body. But because of my eating disorder, I just thought, oh, it wasn't enough. I didn't do enough. What can I do differently so that in the future I don't get this horrible, pregnancy complication? So I found this dietitian, and I didn't know that she was also an eating disorder specialist. I thought she just was focused on intuitive eating, because I was like, I want to get healthy, but I also want someone that's not going to make me feel like I need to go on a really strict diet, because I went down that path and it was bad. So then I ended up working with her, and she very gently was like, after we'd gone into my history, and she was wonderful. And we talked about, from me as a child through young adult through now, like how I've been with food and sort of those memories and experiences. And she very gently diagnosed me with an eating disorder, which shocked me. I mean, I never thought that I had an eating disorder. I thought I'm just health conscious. Maybe I took it a little too far, but again, that stigma still there. And I just remember calling a few close friends, and I barely told anyone because I just felt ashamed, which is sad to me. I'm like, it's not something to be ashamed of. Like, it's so much more common than people think. But in that moment, it was hard for me to accept that. And I remember calling a few friends and family members and just crying and telling them I've been diagnosed with this and I can't believe it. But looking back, I'm like, oh, everything makes sense. When I found out that information, I was like, wow, so many things in my life make sense now. And it kind of put all the pieces together. So, yeah, I would say the biggest things that have helped me in healing have been, working with a registered dietitian who specializes in eating disorders. That was amazing. I love my dietitian. I've actually had another one that I worked with who had more of a specialty with pregnancy and postpartum, because that was also something that I wanted to talk with someone about. And I also just think this is something that I still struggle with, but I think it's really important just to have people you can talk to who can be your advocate and your cheerleader against diet culture. Because sadly, you'll find as you go through your recovery process, there aren't that many people, unfortunately, that see the same way that we do. It feels like it's like a small group of people, and it's really hard. You can feel very alone. So finding those people that can be in your corner is very important.
Yes, it is. It's really helpful. It seems that diet culture talk is just in almost every conversation out there, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
just normalized, like, oh no, I won't have that piece of cake. I'm being good today.
Yep. It's
And
all the time.
it's everywhere the whole time. So yeah, the more we can spread the word, the
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
So I found out about you and Cimorelli when you released the song Skin, which,
Mhm.
I mean, it's phenomenal, and I will
Thank
play it at
you.
the end of this podcast as well. It was absolutely amazing. So
Thank you.
what was the inspiration? I know you wrote the song, didn't you?
Mhm. Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind the lyrics and your personal experiences? Did they shape its creation?
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That song has been not just powerful for other people, but really powerful for me. And I've turned to it in some really dark moments, and I'm really happy that it's out in the world so people can listen to it. Yeah, I started writing that. My sisters and I had rented this little house out in the country, and we were doing like a little songwriters retreat just with each other. This was back in April of 2021, and I was pregnant with my twins, um, and I was just kind of sitting there with the piano, thinking of some ideas, and I suddenly got flooded with this inspiration. And my first inspiration for the song was actually survivors of sexual assault. I was thinking about a specific news story that I'd heard recently. And I also, people very close to me have been, affected by sexual assault. And it just has always really affected me how people can feel so broken and so like there's just something wrong with them. And I also was really thinking about my experiences living in Los Angeles and how it really does feel like all you are is, well, I guess there's multiple things. Money is a big part of it, but as a woman, especially, it seems like all you are is how you look. All you are is your body and in your face. And that's all that people see. And so I had this idea just flooded into me, and I just immediately started playing it on the piano. And how it came out is mostly how it ended up being in the song, but it was, you are more than skin, more than bone. You are more than a world grown harsh and cold. It was like you're not just your body. And that was really the impetus for the song. And as my sisters and I developed it, we picked it back up the next year. It kind of got put aside for a while. We had a lot going on, and I had given birth to my twins later that year. So there was just a lot happening. We picked it back up though. The original inspiration for the sexual assault survivors was still there, but at the time that I started writing it, I hadn't been diagnosed yet with an eating disorder. And then I was the following year. And so I had this huge awareness. And that was sort of where the first verse came from. The first verse is really specifically speaking about body image, and especially people with eating disorders, I think, can relate to those lyrics. They say smaller is better, just basically saying that your worth is in your body again, but in a different way than the assault, survivors. So anyway, it was sort of this multi-year process of coming back to it, but my sisters came together and helped me, and we kind of all finished it together. And I love how it turned out. I just want it to be an anthem for people when they hear it, especially people that struggle with just body image or shame or hatred of their body or anything that is related. Just that, you are not just your body. You are a soul, you are a mind, you're a heart. You have identities outside of just the way that you look. And it's so powerful to like own that. So that's what the song, how it came together.
Absolutely incredible song. And yes, so, so powerful, because
Thank you.
particularly women, we have been made to believe that what we look like is more important than who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
it's time we stood up against that and said, no, who we
Yeah.
are is far more important than what we look like.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yeah.
So many of our listeners struggle with similar challenges. What empowering message or strategies would you offer to somebody who's in the middle of their battle with an eating disorder?
Ooh. I mean, it's so hard. I will say, I've been through a lot of different things in my life and different traumas. And I think the eating disorder might be one of the hardest things. One of my friends who was also in recovery described this to me, saying that it's, I don't know, some people maybe would say it's an addiction or not, I don't know, but I would probably agree with that. But it's the hardest addiction is what my friend was saying, because unlike drugs or alcohol, you can kind of keep away from them. but you literally are eating 3 times a day at minimum, so you're always faced with the thing that is hard. And I think my biggest, first of all, I just want to acknowledge it is really hard. And if you are in recovery, you are doing something that takes an immense amount of courage and strength. So please just be gracious with yourself that it's not going to be easy. It shouldn't be easy. It's just not an easy thing to recover from. And I just want to say though, I still struggle. I still get, very activated, triggered, whatever you want to say, all the time, because like we talked about, diet culture is everywhere. And sometimes you feel like you're just this small voice shouting in the wind, and there's so many voices that are louder and more prominent than yours that are saying the opposite message. So I just want to acknowledge that it's really hard and you will feel alone. But I just will say my biggest encouragement to you is just to find your support system and lean on those people, wonderful coaches like Julia and people that can be in your corner, because you need those people to help you remain sane. Like, I have heard the voice of my dietitians multiple times over, just encouraging me against, diet culture and helping me to stay sane and helping me to unpack some of those crazy beliefs that I had, where I was just like, I believed these things and I just took them as truth because they were so prominent. And then when I actually examined them, especially under even a scientific lens, was like, this is not actually true. I can't believe I've just lived with this for so long. So have those people in your corner and know that you're not alone. And it is really, really difficult, but you just have to ask yourself, this is kind of the place that I've gotten to. Like, I know what it's like to live in the eating disorder, to just let the eating disorder totally take control for, 10 years. It's not good. It's not good. It's a life that is ruled by fear and obsession and is not worth it. No, I don't care what you look like. And that's the thing about eating disorders is most people that have them don't like the way they look anyway. We never were even satisfied with our bodies. Even when we were restricting down to like, maybe you glanced at yourself at the mirror for half a second and approved of your body for being, whatever thin or whatever you want it to look like. But that was so fleeting. And most of the time you were unhappy, you were ruled by fear, and you were not living a good life because you were just stuck in this sickness, this obsession. It's not healthy. And you deserve more than that. You deserve freedom, and you deserve gentleness and the kindness that you would extend to other people, but that is hard to give to yourself. You deserve that. And you should fight for that because it's worth it. And life on the other side is, again, I'm not perfectly recovered. I'm not, I don't have it all figured out. I feel like I still have a very long way to go, but I can tell you that I'm so much more peaceful and happy around food, which is something that is everywhere. And I've been enjoying cooking and enjoying, different foods that I never thought that I'd be able to enjoy. And it's just, life is on the other side. So yeah, I just encourage that. Continue forward.
When you say you're so much more peaceful and happier around food, do you find that it's actually more than just peaceful and happier around food, just generally in your life?
Yes.
More peaceful and happier because that anxiety and that living on stress hormones and fear,
oh my gosh,
reduced, and it's pretty much gone. It's
so
different, isn't it?
Well, and totally. And when you are restricting, it's hard not to think about food most of the day because your mind is going crazy for it and constantly just like, what are we going to eat next? When are we going to eat next? Is it going to be enough? Oh, what's going to be at that party? Like, I'm nervous about these foods. Like, it's never ending. And it absolutely affects your mental health so much. You don't realize how much it's affecting your mental health until you start to recover. And then it's just night and day. And you're like, I am such a happier person and I'm so much more relaxed. And this is like being thin or looking a certain way or feeling this amount of control over food could never compare to having more peace and like freedom. It's absolutely not even a comparison.
And space in your head.
Yeah.
Yes. Filled with thoughts of food all the time, either avoiding it or what's clean or what's not clean or the noise in my head used to be just horrendous.
Yes.
So As a professional in the public eye, how did you balance the pressures of your career with the need for your healing and wellness?
Mm, that has been very, very difficult. I will say that I haven't spoken publicly about my eating disorder very much. And I'm really excited to share in this podcast. This is one of the first times I've talked a little bit about it on our podcast, but I don't think I've ever even made a channel or a video on my channel. Every time I've gotten to start doing it, I've frozen in fear. I think that the public aspect makes it so difficult because, people saw me as this very thin girl for many years on the internet. That was how they came to see me. And then suddenly over the course of, 2 years, as I was in recovery and I was, giving birth, and I gained quite a bit of weight. So I looked very different, and I still look very different. And I received some absolutely like soul crushing, horrible, horrible messages from people commenting on my appearance, saying how they thought I looked really bad, or they thought I was really unhealthy, which for an orthorexic, former orthorexic, that's like the worst thing you could say to someone, is that they're unhealthy. Because that is like the top tier virtue that we aspire, to have. So it just absolutely crushed me. And it took me a long time. I felt like having to go through these bodily changes in a public setting where people were seeing me every week, and I couldn't just stop. It's my job. And I'm not just going to go hide in a corner because people are saying mean things. Like, that's not worth it either. And that's giving them way more power than they deserve. But there have been several times that I have almost felt like, I don't want to say nervous breakdown. That probably sounds a little dramatic, but like maybe a mental breakdown. I felt like I was just like crying to my husband, and I was like, it's not worth it. I can't do this. Like, I'm trying to recover, and people are basically saying my worst fears on a public setting. Like, it just, I just wished so much that I could do it privately. But I also don't want to glamorize that, because it's hard for everyone. Even if you're not on the internet, you have your friends, your family, you're constantly worried. Do they think I look different?
Yes.
Are they judging me for gaining weight, or for looking, for eating differently? Or do they think I'm eating too much? Like, those voices in your head never go away, no matter what setting you're in. So I will say the internet feels like it's a little bit amplified, because it's all these strangers sort of commenting on your appearance and affirming your worst fears. So it just makes you more paranoid. But again, still worth it. still
Yeah.
totally worth it to do it. And I would not take it back. And I feel like it's really caused me to grow in courage to like continue to put myself out there, even if people don't approve of me recovering and don't approve of my body changing. Like, those people were never going to love me anyway. And I don't think it's
No.
really love in the first place if they only liked you because you were thin or whatever. That just seems kind of weird to me. So yeah, not
Oh,
really seeking those people's approval anymore.
you're an absolute inspiration. That is incredible.
Thank
And
you.
my personal belief is the people that were saying unkind things, that was a reflection of their own fears and their own insecurities.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't really about you, it was about them.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can you share the role of support systems in your journey, and how important were friends, family, and professionals? You've already mentioned your dietitian.
Yeah. So I will say my biggest support system has definitely been my husband. He is the person that consistently, sorry, I like my nose keeps itching, like allergies. And it just, I don't know, something in this room is not agreeing with me. But anyway, my husband and my dietitian have been my absolute biggest supporters. I've spoken with family and friends about it, and it's been great to share it. But unfortunately, I don't know that I really have many other friends or family that are recovering from an eating disorder. And it's such a unique experience that I don't feel that I have many people to share that with. I actually would really like to find that community, because I think I could use that. But I definitely think that family and friends have been supportive in a way that they see that I'm probably happier and doing a good thing. And that's been really wonderful to have that support. but yeah, it is kind of hard. Sometimes it feels like I'm kind of forging this path by myself. And I don't know, there's not many people that, even my husband, he never had an eating disorder. So it's sometimes I think hard for him to relate, but just on those times when I've really broken down and had kind of hit my rock bottom, he's been there to lift me up and kind of like remind me of my worth, that it's not, in those things that I'm seeking. So that's been amazing. And also too, just like watching videos from people that, practice intuitive eating or are, recovering from eating disorders. I'll take all that I can get. I follow all of them on Instagram. I unfollow or mute anyone that comes up that's like encouraging disordered eating. Like you have to kind of protect yourself. So I think
You
it's good.
do.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right about the social media feeds. I had so many people like in the fitness industry and in the diet culture industry that I used to follow, and
Yeah.
it's really, really unhelpful.
It's
To
horrible. Yeah.
clean up your feed and have people who are your body size or larger,
Mm-hmm.
who celebrate their bodies and don't succumb, would that make sense? Succumb to this honestly conflicting mesh of lies that we're fed from
Mm-hmm.
the diet industry, the beauty industry, and the fitness industry, because they are conflicting. You can't find a truth in there
Mm-mm.
because they
No.
all contradict each other. So how can that be true when they all contradict?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
this huge mesh of lies. If you can remove it from your feeds and really just take out anybody that makes you feel less than.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you find yourself following someone that you don't know why, but every time you look at their pictures or their posts, maybe they're not really saying anything overt, but it's really triggering disordered eating in you, you have every permission to unfollow them. You don't have to feel guilty. Or if it's someone that just mute them. Like, you
Yeah,
don't have to be kind in your recovery. Like, you need to protect yourself. So just do what you need to do to like stay away from stuff that's just pushing you further into that hole. Because once you get into the hole, it's really hard to get out of it.
yeah, yeah. So in terms of I can't talk today. Sustainable wellness. It's in my defense, it's evening now here, so
It's okay.
it's a Friday evening. I'm tired. But in
Yeah.
terms of sustainable wellness, what daily practices or mindsets do you maintain to keep yourself healthy and well?
I love that. I have really shifted my personal definition of health, which, as we talked about, no one can agree on what it is. Kind of cracks me up as like someone that used to be in that. I definitely place a huge emphasis on mental health. I think that, and I would say mental and spiritual kind of tied together. I really see them as connected, because those two things are the bedrock for everything in your life. Like, I think people don't realize it's not just as cut and dry of, oh, I follow this diet plan, I eat these foods, I do this exercise for this many minutes. That's also robotic, but we're human beings. We have emotions, we have experiences, and your mental health will inform everything that you do. And I really do see being mentally healthy as like kind of the pinnacle of health. Like, when my mental health is good, my body is healthier. Like it's all so connected. I really see it as in a holistic way now. They're all connected. So I would say my practices, the things I prioritize now, I think that everyone has different practices that make them a mentally healthy person. For me, I would say one absolute, like, kind of non-negotiable is prayer, which has definitely changed as I've become a mom and kind of had to pull back certain days and times. But my faith has been an absolute rock to me through this whole thing, writing letters to God during, those really dark times where I felt alone. So prayer is a huge one for me. And then I also think, like connection with others, that's also a huge aspect of mental health that I really value. So talking with friends who I really feel safe with and sharing my heart with them, family, just having quality time with my husband and my children. and being present, that's really helped me a lot with being just, I don't know, mentally healthy person. And then I also will say, like, physically, I definitely have noticed the things that make me feel good. So stretching is a big one. I love stretching, and I do a lot, just like whatever is sort of bothering me, I'll find videos from physical therapists or whoever. I just stretch. Walking, I feel so good when I walk. When my sisters and I were teenagers, like, we would just go on long walks and listen to music and like process all of our feelings. And I feel like to this day, like, walking is one of the things that if I'm having a really rough day, I want to go on a walk, because I always feel better when I come back after a walk. And let's see, other things, getting sleep is very important, and everyone is better when they sleep, which, I mean, I'm about to have another baby, so it's not about me.
Very
But
fresh for you then.
in general, just trying to prioritize getting, at least 8 hours of sleep a night. And just cooking a variety of different types of foods. I love cooking, and I feel really good when I'm trying and eating lots of different, my husband and I love eating different cultures of food, lots of different, just many different types of food in every category. I think I just feel the most healthy when I have variety. So yeah, balancing all those things, spirituality, connection, like physical health, mental health. Oh, and I can't believe I didn't say this earlier, but therapy. Therapy is like, amazing. Coaching, working with dietitian, anyone that can be in your corner and just work with you. I think that is like the highest priority to like me being a more mentally and physically healthy person. So yeah, kind of all those things together.
Amazing. I totally agree with you about mental health, because if you don't have good mental health, it doesn't really even matter what your physical health is like, because you can't enjoy it.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm aware that you've got two little ones going to be waking up very soon. So, looking forward, what's next for you, both personally, well, obviously a new baby, which is super exciting,
Thank
um,
you.
but professionally, what's going on for you in the future?
Well, I'm still with my sisters working hard on Cimorelli music. We've been really prioritizing original music lately and wanting to, we've been doing more writing and just wanting to really put that at the forefront and focus more on that, less on covers. We also started a kids channel. So we are creating content for children, which has been so fun. My sons love it and ask for me to put it on like every day. That's been a
Wow.
blast. One of my personal goals that I kind of am having to surrender a bit at the moment, but it's always in my mind and I'm working on it as much as I can, is getting my writing out there. I've always loved writing. And I think that's one of my biggest goals, and it's hard with young children. You kind of just do what you can. But I really want to start a newsletter, and I'm working on that at the moment. And I'd love to come out. I actually wrote like a whole book. So I'm working on trying to get my book out there, and get a newsletter out there, because I would really love to share more of my writing. So that's what, hopefully we'll see 2024, because I'll have a new baby, but I'm going to do the best I can to continue with that outlet. I'm always writing. I'm always writing on my own. I just don't sometimes really put it out there onto the internet. So I want to do more of that for sure.
So exciting. Wow. And last question is, how do you hope that your story and your music, particularly with songs like Skin, impact other people facing similar struggles?
Wow. I hope that my story will find someone like me who was in the throes of an eating disorder and just had no idea, and thought that that was all there was to life, and that they didn't know anything differently. And I just hope that even one person listening to this might have a change of heart, like, oh, maybe I should reach out for help and could live life differently without like so much fear. That is my hope. And we hope to reach that with my sisters and my music too. Like, we always really want to reach people that are struggling to find hope and maintain, a reason to live. That's a huge inspiration for us. So, because, we've all been there. We all, mental health and stuff is really important to all of us. So, would love to reach those people that are struggling, just so they know that they're not alone.
Yes, that is so beautiful. Absolutely amazing. And yeah, recovery is possible. It really,
Mhm.
really is. And it's so worth it.
Yes.
Even though it is, I mean, it's the hardest journey I've ever been on, but it is
Same.
so worth it
So worth
and
it.
life-changing, really. I mean, it's almost indescribable to say the difference.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's really hard to put into words, isn't it?
It feels like like looking back at even old pictures, I'm like, who was I? I feel really different. Like I feel like almost like I love that girl but I feel very sad seeing any pictures or videos from that time. I'm like, that is just a different person. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so, so much for coming on and sharing your story and your insights and your inspiration to everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so grateful to you for giving us your time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much,
Yeah,
Catherine.
thank you for having me, Julia. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you so much, listeners. This has been a phenomenal episode. And yeah, stay safe, and I'll be with you again next week. Thank you so, so much.